Kyung-ho stood in the massive hall and felt very small. The ceiling stretched up so high that he could not see the top. Around him sat hundreds of alien beings from across the galaxy. Some looked like giant lizards with shiny scales. Others were made of what seemed like living crystal that sparkled in the light. A few appeared to be clouds of gas that moved and changed shape as they floated in special containers. All of them were staring at him with what he was sure was amusement. Some were making sounds that he guessed were laughter, even though it sounded nothing like human laughter. The crystal beings made high singing noises. The lizard people hissed and clicked their tongues. The gas clouds swirled faster and changed colors. "So this is what humans look like," said Velthar, the Supreme Chancellor. He was a tall lizard being with dark green scales and yellow eyes that never blinked. Soft pink skin that tears easily. Small weak bones. Only 2 arms and 2 legs. How did your species even survive long enough to reach space? More laughter filled the hall. Kyung-ho tried to keep his face calm, but his hands were shaking a little. He had practiced this speech for months. Earth's government had chosen him carefully for this mission. He was supposed to convince these advanced alien races that humans deserved to join the inner circle of the Galactic Federation. "Honorable beings of the Council," Kyung-ho began, his voice echoing in the huge space. "Humanity has been part of the Galactic Federation for 50 years now. We have followed all the rules. We have paid our taxes. We have sent our young people to study in your universities. We believe we are ready for advanced membership." "Ready?" The voice came from War Master Grextol, a huge being with 4 muscular arms and gray skin that looked like stone. "Your people still use chemical rockets to travel between stars. Our children learn to build faster-than-light engines in their first year of school. Your weapons shoot pieces of metal," added another voice. This came from something that looked like a floating brain in a glass tank. "We have weapons that can turn entire planets into energy." So-jin sat in the viewing area above the main floor. She was a scientist who studied alien life forms. She had come with Kyung-ho to help explain human achievements to the Council. But as she listened to the aliens talk, she realized they were not interested in what humans had accomplished. They only wanted to point out what humans could not do. "Look at their ambassador," hissed a snake-like being with dozens of eyes. "He is nervous. His body temperature has gone up. His heart is beating faster. Humans cannot even control their own emotions." "We have studied your species," said Velthar, looking at a glowing screen that appeared in the air next to him. "Humans live for less than 100 years. Most of our species live for thousands. Humans need to breathe oxygen and drink water every day. We can survive in the vacuum of space. Humans cannot speak to each other mind to mind. They must use primitive sound waves. Your planet has only 1 star," laughed another being that looked like a walking tree. "Our worlds orbit binary stars and triple star systems. You come from such a simple environment that you have no idea how complex the real universe is." Kyung-ho felt his face getting hot. He wanted to argue, but what could he say? Everything they were saying was true. Humans were weaker than most alien species. Human technology was simpler. Human lifespans were shorter. "Perhaps," said a being made of pure light, "humans should be happy with basic membership. You can trade with us. You can visit our worlds as tourists. But advanced membership is for species that can contribute something valuable to the galaxy." "What exactly do humans offer that we cannot do better ourselves?" asked Velthar. Kyung-ho thought about all the things he had planned to say. He wanted to talk about human art and music. He wanted to explain how humans were good at solving problems in new ways. He wanted to tell them about human courage and determination. But looking around the hall at all these powerful beings, his prepared words seemed silly. What was human art compared to beings who could create beauty with pure thought? What was human problem-solving compared to species that could calculate faster than any computer? We work hard," Kyung-ho said finally. "We do not give up easily. We try to help others." The laughter that followed was even louder than before. Some beings were making sounds that hurt Kyung-ho's ears. Others were flashing lights so bright he had to close his eyes. "Working hard?" said Grextol. "Efficiency is what matters. Why work hard when you can work smart?" "Not giving up," said the floating brain. "Sometimes knowing when to quit shows wisdom." "Helping others?" said Velthar. "We help ourselves first. That is how we became advanced." The vote was quick. One by one, every species on the council voted against human advancement. The numbers appeared on screens around the hall. 847 votes against, 0 votes in favor. "The council has decided," announced Velthar. Humanity will remain at basic membership level. Perhaps in a few thousand years, when your species has evolved more, you can apply again. Kyung-ho bowed his head. There was nothing else he could do. He gathered his papers and walked toward the exit. The aliens were still talking and laughing as he left, so Jin met him at the door. "I am sorry," she said quietly. "They were right about everything," Kyung-ho replied. "We are weaker. Our technology is primitive. Our lifespans are short." As their small human ship left the giant space station, neither of them could imagine that in just a few months these same powerful aliens would be begging for human help. None of them knew that sometimes being weak and primitive and short-lived could be exactly what the galaxy needed. But that day would come sooner than anyone expected. Commander Hye-jin was drinking coffee when the alarm started screaming. She had been reading reports in her small office aboard the patrol ship New Seoul, when every warning system on the vessel began making noise at once. "Commander, to the bridge," came the voice over the speakers. "Emergency contact. Unknown ships approaching." Hye-jin ran through the narrow hallways of her ship. The New Seoul was not a big vessel. It carried only 30 crew members and was designed for watching empty space near the edge of the galaxy. Nothing exciting ever happened out here. That was why Hye-jin had been surprised when her sensors officer, Lieutenant Dong-woo, called for help. "What do we have?" she asked as she stepped onto the bridge. "Ma'am, you need to see this," said Dong-woo. His face was pale and his hands were shaking as he pointed at the main screen. The screen showed stars and empty space, just like always. But then Hye-jin saw them. Dark shapes moving between the stars. At first she thought they might be asteroids or space rocks. But asteroids did not move in straight lines. And they did not grow bigger as you watched them. "How many?" she asked. "We count at least 50 ships, ma'am. Maybe more. They are coming from outside the galaxy." "Outside the galaxy?" Hye-jin stared at the screen. "That is impossible. Nothing lives in the space between galaxies." But as she watched, the shapes became clearer. They were definitely ships, but unlike any ships she had ever seen. They were not made of metal like human ships. They were not made of energy like the ships of the ethereal collective. These ships looked like they were alive. They had what looked like skin instead of hull plating. They moved through space like swimming fish instead of flying machines. "Send a message to Earth immediately," Hye-jin ordered. "Tell them we have unknown contacts approaching from outside the galaxy. Request instructions." "Ma'am," said her communications officer, "I am getting reports from other patrol ships. These contacts are appearing all along the galactic rim, hundreds of them. On the other side of the galaxy, Dr. Minsik was working late in his laboratory on Earth when the emergency messages started arriving. As head of the Human Colonial Research Division, he was responsible for studying all the strange things that humans found in space. But he had never seen anything like this. The reports were coming in from everywhere. Human patrol ships, alien monitoring stations, research vessels, trading posts, all of them were seeing the same thing. Ancient structures that had been dark and dead for millions of years were suddenly coming to life. "Get me Admiral Tae-wan," Minsik told his assistant. "Wake him up if you have to." Admiral Tae-wan arrived at the research center within an hour. He was an old man who had spent his entire life in the Human Defense Force. He had fought pirates and settled disputes between colonies. But his face was serious as he looked at the data Minsik showed him. "These structures," Minsik explained, pointing at images on his screen, "have been floating in space since before any of our current civilizations existed. We always thought they were dead. Just ancient ruins from some species that died out long ago. And now they are active?" asked Tae-wan. "Not just active. They are producing ships, living ships that are heading into the galaxy from every direction." On the bridge of the New Seoul, Commander Hye-jin watched the alien ships get closer. She could see them more clearly now. They definitely looked alive. Their hulls pulsed like heartbeats. Parts of them moved and changed shape as she watched. "Ma'am," said Dong-woo, "I am reading massive energy signatures from those ships, much more powerful than anything in our databases." "Try to contact them," Hye-jin ordered. Her communications officer worked at his station for several minutes. "No response, ma'am. They are not answering on any frequency." "Ma'am," Dong-woo's voice was excited and scared. "One of the ships just changed course. It is heading directly for us." On the screen, Hye-jin could see one of the living ships turning toward her vessel. It was much larger than the New Seoul. As it got closer, she could see that its surface was covered with what looked like eyes. Hundreds of them, and they were all looking at her ship. All stations, prepare for contact, she announced over the ship's communication system. The alien ship stopped just a few thousand meters away from the new Sol. For several minutes, nothing happened. The two ships just floated in space, watching each other. Then the alien ship did something impossible. Parts of its hull began to open like flowers. But instead of showing the inside of the ship, the openings revealed teeth. Huge, sharp teeth that lined what could only be called a mouth. "Commander," whispered Dongwu, "that ship is not just alive, it is a living creature." Before He-Jin could respond, the creature ship opened its mouth wide and rushed toward them. At that same moment, on the other side of the galaxy, the ethereal collective was learning the same terrible truth. Their beautiful crystal ships, which could bend light itself into weapons, met the first wave of these ancient beings at the Andromeda Gateway. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it was over, the most advanced civilization in the galaxy had been reduced to scattered refugees fleeing for their lives. The beings that emerged from the dark space between galaxies had a name, though it would be days before anyone learned it. They called themselves the Devourers, and they had been sleeping for millions of years, waiting for the galaxy to grow full of life again. Now they were awake, and they were hungry. Dr. Jiwoo was working in her laboratory on Mars when the first reports arrived. She was a physicist who studied how different technologies worked. As she read the reports from the battles, she began to understand something terrible. "They are not just attacking randomly," she told her assistant. "Look at these patterns. Every time our allies use energy weapons, the enemy adapts. Every time they try a new technology, these Devourers learn to defend against it." "What does that mean?" asked her assistant. "It means they have been watching us. For a very long time. They know how all our technology works. They have been preparing. But there was one thing the Devourers had not been watching, one technology they had never seen. While they slept, a young species from a small blue planet had learned to travel to the stars, using primitive chemical rockets and simple metal ships, the Karmu. Devourers had been preparing for millions of years. To fight advanced civilizations, they had no idea how to fight humans. Supreme Chancellor Velthar had not slept in 3 days. His yellow eyes were dim and his green scales had lost their shine. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council was taking place on a backup station hidden in the outer rim. Half of their member species were already gone, consumed by the Devourers who seemed unstoppable. "We need options," Velthar said to the few remaining council members. "The ethereal collective is scattered. The Titan hegemony lost their entire fleet. The Void Touch cannot even find these creatures with their minds. What about the gas beings from Nebula 7? Asked one of the crystal beings, its voice high and musical but filled with fear. "Gone," replied Grextul. The War Master looked smaller now, his forearms hanging limp at his sides. Their entire star system was eaten. These Devourers do not just destroy. They consume everything. Matter, energy, even life force itself. Ambassador Kyung-ho sat quietly in the corner. 3 months ago, these same beings had laughed at humanity and called them weak. Now they were discussing the end of galactic civilization, and no one had even mentioned asking humans for help. "Perhaps we should try negotiating," suggested the floating brain creature. "They do not communicate," Velthar replied. "Every attempt at contact has failed. They simply arrive, consume everything, and move on to the next system. Then we run," said another voice. "We gather our remaining people and flee to another galaxy." "With what ships?" asked Grextul bitterly. "Our fastest vessels are no match for theirs. They can adapt to any engine technology within hours of seeing it." Kyung-ho cleared his throat. The sound was small in the large chamber, but it got everyone's attention. "What about asking for help from species you have not tried yet?" "From whom?" Velthar asked. "Every advanced civilization has already been contacted." "What about the humans?" Kyung-ho said quietly. The silence that followed was heavy and uncomfortable. Several beings made sounds that Kyung-ho had learned meant disgust or disbelief. "The humans?" Grextul laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "What could your primitive species possibly do that we cannot?" "I do not know," Kyung-ho admitted. "But every advanced technology has failed against these Devourers. Perhaps it is time to try something that is not advanced." While the council argued, Fleet Admiral Yoonji was studying battle reports in her office on Earth. She had been in the Human Defense Force for 40 years and had never seen anything like this. Every video, every sensor reading, every survivor report told the same story. The Devourers were impossible to fight with normal weapons. Energy beams were absorbed and turned against the attackers. Plasma cannons were useless. Even nuclear weapons were somehow neutralized before they could explode. "But look at this," she said to Captain Dayun, who commanded one of Earth's newest destroyers. She pointed to a report from a cargo ship that had escaped a Devourer attack. The captain says his ship was damaged by debris from an exploding space station. When pieces of metal hit the Devourer ship, they actually caused damage. Metal debris. Dayun looked confused. How is that possible when plasma cannons do nothing? I think they adapt to energy patterns, Yunji explained. But physical impact? That is just basic physics. You cannot adapt to a chunk of metal hitting you at high speed. Dayun thought about her ship, the Busan. It was armed with rail guns that shot metal slugs using magnetic force. The aliens had always laughed at such primitive weapons. Admiral, are you suggesting we use kinetic weapons against them? I am suggesting we use everything we have that they have never seen before. On the research station orbiting Jupiter, So Jin was working with her team to study the few Devourer samples they had managed to collect. The creatures were unlike anything in the databases. They seemed to be part machine and part living organism. Look at this, she said to engineer Wu Jin, who had come to help analyze the biological components. Their cellular structure can adapt to different types of energy input. When hit with a laser, the cells change to absorb laser energy. When hit with plasma, they change to handle plasma. Like an immune system? Wu Jin asked. Exactly like an immune system. But look at this. She showed him another sample under the microscope. This piece was damaged by simple physical trauma. A piece of metal that punched through it. The cells around the wound show no adaptation. They just died. So they can adapt to energy weapons but not to getting hit by solid objects. It appears that way. Their evolution prepared them for advanced technology, but not for primitive physical force. The breakthrough came when Captain Dayun encountered a Devourer scout ship near the Proxima system. Her destroyer Busan was on patrol when the alien vessel appeared without warning. All stations, battle alert, Dayun ordered. Target the contact with railguns. Ma'am, her weapons officer said, the alien ship is much larger than us. Our orders are to retreat if we encounter Devourers. Our orders are to defend human space, Daun replied. Fire when ready. The Busan's railguns launched metal slugs at incredible speed. To everyone's surprise, the projectiles punched straight through the Devourer's hull. The alien ship seemed confused. Parts of it tried to adapt, but there was nothing to adapt to. The slugs were just pieces of metal moving very fast. Direct hits, reported the weapons officer. The target is leaking atmosphere. For the first time since the invasion began, a Devourer ship retreated from battle. Back on the council station, Velthar was reading the report from the Busan with disbelief. A human ship damaged a Devourer vessel. With primitive kinetic weapons, Kyung-ho confirmed. The same weapons you laughed at 3 months ago. This must be a mistake, said Grextel. No species has been able to damage them. Perhaps that is the problem, Kyung-ho suggested. Every species that has fought them has used advanced technology. The Devourers seem prepared for that, but they were not prepared for humans. Why would they prepare for humans? Asked the crystal being. Your species is barely space-worthy. Exactly, Kyung-ho said. We are so primitive that we are not in their database. They have been watching advanced civilizations for millions of years, learning how to defeat them, but they have only known about humans for 50 years, and they never took us seriously enough to study us. Velthar looked around the chamber at the few remaining council members. Their choices were simple. Ask the weakest species in the galaxy for help or watch civilization end. Very well, he said finally. The Galactic Council formally requests military assistance from the Human Federation. The words felt strange in his mouth. But as more reports came in of human ships actually winning battles against the Devourers, Velthar began to realize something that should have been obvious from the beginning. Sometimes the weakest person in the room is the only one who can solve the problem. And sometimes being too primitive to be taken seriously is the greatest advantage of all. Supreme Commander Inwu stared at the massive biostation floating in the distance. The Devourer Nexus was larger than most moons, a living structure that pulsed with dark energy. Intelligence reports said this was where the Queen Mind controlled the entire invasion. If they could destroy it, the war would be over. Final fleet count? He asked his aide. 800 human ships, sir, plus support vessels from every surviving alien species. This is everything we have left. Inwu nodded grimly. After months of fighting, the galaxy's combined forces had been reduced to this single fleet. If they failed here, there would be nowhere left to run. Captain Jun Seo stood on the bridge of his heavy cruiser Incheon and studied the tactical display. The approach to the Nexus was protected by thousands of Devourer bioships. Computer simulations gave their attack force only a 12% chance of success. Good thing we humans do not trust computers, he muttered to his weapons officer. Sir, the officer asked. Nothing, Lieutenant. Just thinking out loud. Prepare all kinetic weapons for maximum rate of fire. Today we find out if primitive technology can save the galaxy. The final assault began with the largest artillery barrage in galactic history. Human ships launched everything they had. Railgun slugs, nuclear missiles, chemical explosives, and even simple metal debris fired from magnetic cannons. The aliens provided what support they could with their shields and sensors, but everyone knew the real fighting would be done by human weapons. The Devourers had learned much during the war. They no longer tried to adapt to human kinetic weapons. Instead, they focused on avoiding them. Their bioships moved in complex patterns, making them harder to hit. But humans had learned too. Instead of aiming where the enemy ships were, they aimed where the ships were going to be. Human intuition, developed through millions of years of hunting animals on Earth, proved better than any targeting computer. Direct hit on the outer defensive ring, reported the sensor officer aboard the Incheon. Devourer ships are falling back to secondary positions. Admiral Taewan coordinated the attack from his flagship. All units maintain pressure on the flanks. Do not let them regroup. Young-Soo, take your fighters through the gap in their line. Lieutenant Commander Young-Soo led his squadron of fighters toward the Nexus itself. His small ships carried the most powerful weapons humanity had developed. Nuclear charges designed to be delivered by hand. Remember, people, he told his pilots, we only get one chance at this. The Queen Mind is somewhere in the center of that station. Our job is to get the Marines close enough to do their work. Major Hee-jin prepared her assault team in the cargo bay of Young-Soo's fighter. She was carrying equipment that would have been museum pieces on any advanced world. Thermite charges, plastic explosives, and electromagnetic pulse devices that worked by generating simple electrical fields. 30 seconds to insertion point, Young-Soo announced. I hope you are ready for this, Major. We have been ready for months, Hee-jin replied, checking her simple chemical-powered rifle one last time. The galaxy is counting on us to end this war today. The approach to the Nexus was the most dangerous flight of Young-Soo's career. Devourer bioships swarmed around his fighters like angry insects. His squadron used every trick they had learned. Random course changes, electronic countermeasures that confused the enemy sensors, and weapons fired in patterns that made no mathematical sense. Fighter leader, this is Incheon, came Captain Jun Seo's voice. You have a clear path to the insertion point. Go now. Young-Soo's fighter dove toward the surface of the Nexus. The living station tried to defend itself, growing new weapons from its hull and firing energy beams that could have destroyed a small planet. But the fighter was too small and fast, and its pilot was too unpredictable. Insertion successful, he announced as Major Hee-jin and her team jumped from his fighter onto the station's surface. Marines are away! Inside the Nexus, Major Hee-jin led her team through corridors that looked like the inside of a living creature. The walls pulsed with a heartbeat-like rhythm. Strange fluids dripped from the ceiling. Everything was designed to be terrifying and alien. Stay close and watch for traps, she told her Marines. This place was built to confuse and frighten visitors. Do not let it get to you. Corporal Byung-ho carried the thermite charges that would be used to destroy the Queen Mind. He was a simple soldier who had grown up on a farm before joining the military. The advanced technology around him was frightening, but his job was simple. Plant the charges and get out. Major, he said as they moved deeper into the station, my sensors are picking up something big ahead, much larger than anything we have seen before. They emerged into a vast chamber at the heart of the Nexus. In the center floated the Queen Mind, a creature the size of a building. It was part machine and part living being, with thousands of cables connecting it to every system in the station. The Queen Mind spoke without words, its thoughts pressing against their minds like a crushing weight. Images of destroyed worlds and consumed civilizations flooded their thoughts. This was a being that had devoured countless galaxies across millions of years. But human minds, chaotic and unpredictable, resisted the mental attack. Where other species would have been overwhelmed and controlled, the Marines just felt a bad headache. "Is that all you have got?" He-Jin asked the ancient being. "We have fought worse things on Earth." The Queen Mind's surprise was obvious. No species had ever resisted its mental domination so easily. It tried harder, flooding their minds with fear and despair. But humans who had evolved on a world full of natural disasters and deadly predators were not easily frightened. "Byung-ho, place the charges," He-Jin ordered. "The rest of you, cover him." The Queen Mind realized what was happening and sent its guardians to stop them. Devourer creatures that looked like living nightmares emerged from hidden passages. They were designed to be the ultimate killers, able to adapt to any threat. But they had never faced humans with simple gunpowder weapons and explosive charges. Bullets punched through armor that could stop energy beams. Grenades exploded in ways the creatures could not predict or counter. Corporal Byung-ho worked calmly while his teammates fought around him. The thermite charges were simple devices that worked by burning very hot metal. There was nothing advanced about them, nothing for the Queen Mind to understand or counter. "Charges placed," he announced. 60 seconds to detonation. "All teams fall back," ordered Major He-Jin. "Move, move, move." The Queen Mind's mental screams followed them as they ran through the corridors. It finally understood what humans were and why they were so dangerous. They were not just primitive. They were immune to everything that made the Devourers powerful. But the realization came too late. The thermite charges exploded with simple chemical fire, burning through the Queen Mind's body and severing its connections to the Nexus. Across the galaxy, every Devourer ship suddenly stopped moving as their central intelligence died. "This is Major He-Jin to all units," she reported as her team reached their extraction point. "Target destroyed. Repeat, target destroyed." The silence that followed her announcement was broken by cheering voices from every ship in the fleet. Human crews, alien crews, and mixed crews all celebrated together as they watched the Devourer forces drift helplessly in space. Supreme Commander In-Woo felt tears running down his face as he watched the enemy ships shut down one by one. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "All units stand down from combat alert. The war is over." Ambassador Kyung-ho found himself once again standing before the Galactic Council, but this time every delegate was standing in respectful silence. The hall that had once echoed with laughter at human weakness now filled with grateful voices, thanking humanity for saving them all. "The Galactic Council," announced Supreme Chancellor Velthar, his voice carrying newfound respect, "hereby grants the Human Federation not just advanced membership, but honored status as defenders of the galaxy. Dr. Sojin, now bearing the title of Chief Xenobiological Advisor, watched the ceremony from the gallery where she had once sat in shame. The irony was not lost on her. Humanity's weaknesses, their primitive technology, their chaotic thinking, their inability to achieve the perfect efficiency of other species, had been exactly what the galaxy needed. "We were wrong about your species," Velthar continued. "We measured strength by the wrong standards. We thought advanced technology made us superior. We forgot that sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution. Admiral Taewan established new protocols for galactic defense. Humanity would maintain its unique technological path, ensuring that the galaxy would never again be caught unprepared by an enemy that could adapt to conventional warfare. The Devourers prepared for millions of years to fight advanced civilizations," he explained to the gathered officers. "They never prepared to fight a species crazy enough to use gunpowder and metal bullets in the age of energy weapons." Dr. Hana's research into Devourer adaptation had revealed the key to their defeat. "They were designed to counter perfection," she wrote in her final report. "Every advanced species tries to create perfect, efficient weapons, but humans create messy, unpredictable weapons that work in ways that make no sense. Sometimes that is exactly what you need." General Sung-min stood before the largest gathering of military officers in galactic history. The command center at Kepler Station buzzed with activity as representatives from dozens of surviving species worked together for the first time. Humans, crystal beings, gas clouds, and even some surviving Titan warriors filled the enormous room. "The Devourers are massing for a final attack," Sung-min announced, his voice carrying clearly through the translation devices. Our scouts report over 3,000 of their bioships gathering near the galactic core. If they succeed in taking Kepler Station, they will control the main hyperspace routes to every inhabited system. Admiral Taiwan, now serving as overall fleet commander, displayed tactical information on the main screen. We have 800 ships ready for battle. 200 are human vessels armed with kinetic weapons. The rest are alien ships providing support with shields and sensors. In the weeks since humans had proven they could fight the Devourers, everything had changed. The aliens who once mocked human technology now begged for human protection. Human ships with their simple metal hulls and chemical rockets had become the most valuable vessels in the galaxy. Lieutenant Commander Young Su listened to the briefing from his fighter squadron ready room. He commanded 12 small human fighters, each armed with what the aliens had once called primitive explosives. Nuclear missiles that used simple chemical reactions instead of advanced energy systems. Remember, he told his pilots, these weapons work because the Devourers cannot adapt to them fast enough. But we have to be smart. They learn from every battle. If we use the same tactics too many times, they will find ways to counter us. Dr. Hana had made an important discovery while studying captured Devourer technology. Working in her laboratory aboard the human research vessel Sol, she had found something that explained why humans were so effective against the ancient enemy. It is not just our weapons, she explained to the other scientists. It is our minds. Human neural patterns evolved in Earth's chaotic environment. We had to deal with weather, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and predators that could kill us in thousands of different ways. What does that mean for the war? Asked Dr. Sojin. It means our brains are naturally resistant to Devourer mind attacks. Other species evolved on more stable worlds. Their thinking is more organized and predictable. The Devourers can overwhelm their minds and even control them, but human thoughts are too chaotic and random for them to predict or control. This discovery had led to the most important breakthrough of the war. Sergeant Jiho and his Marine unit had become the first ground forces to successfully board and capture a Devourer bioship. Their mission had seemed impossible, but human unpredictability had made it work. The ship's defenses were designed to stop energy-based weapons, Jiho reported to the command staff. Our ceramic armor and gunpowder weapons went right through their adaptive barriers. They had no response to simple bullets and explosive charges. The psychological impact of seeing humans fighting inside Devourer ships had spread across the galaxy. Communications officer Suman had broadcast the footage to every surviving world. Species that had considered humans barely intelligent watched in amazement as these primitive beings did what no advanced civilization could accomplish. Before the war started, Suman told her communication team, alien species thought humans were a joke. Now we are the most feared warriors in the galaxy, not because we are stronger or smarter, but because we are unpredictable. The Battle of Kepler Station began at dawn, Galactic Standard Time. General Sungmin coordinated the defense from the command center, while his ships took positions around the massive space station. The Devourers arrived in a formation that no computer could have predicted. Their bioships moved like a school of fish, flowing around obstacles and changing direction without any visible signals between them. They had learned from previous battles and were approaching more carefully this time. All units, this is command, Sungmin announced. Remember the plan. Alien vessels provide cover and sensor support. Human ships make the actual attacks. Do not try to be heroes. We win this by working together. Captain Daun positioned her destroyer Busan at the front of the human formation. Around her, she could see the beautiful ships of their alien allies. Crystal vessels that sparkled like jewels, energy beings that glowed with inner light, gas clouds contained in transparent shells. All of them were counting on her simple metal ship and its primitive weapons. Contact, reported her sensor officer. Devourer bioships entering weapons range. The alien ships opened fire first, their energy weapons creating brilliant displays of light across space. But as expected, the Devourer bioships absorbed the energy and grew stronger. Their hulls glowed as they converted the alien attacks into power for their own systems. Human ships. You are clear to engage, came General Sungmin's voice over the communication system. Da-Yun's railguns fired metal slugs at incredible speed. Around her, other human ships launched nuclear missiles and kinetic projectiles. The Devourers tried to adapt, but there was nothing to adapt to. Physics was physics. Metal traveling at high speed would punch holes in anything. Direct hits on multiple targets. reported the weapons officer. Devourer ships are taking damage. For the first time in the war, the Devourers seemed confused. Their perfect adaptation abilities were useless against weapons that worked through simple physical force, rather than advanced technology. Lieutenant Commander Young-Soo led his fighter squadron into the heart of the enemy formation. His small ships were fast and hard to target, and their nuclear missiles were too primitive for the Devourers to understand quickly. Fox 3, he called as he launched his missiles. Multiple warheads away! The nuclear explosions lit up space like small suns. The Devourers had no defense against weapons that worked by splitting atoms rather than manipulating energy fields. But the aliens were learning too. As the battle continued, some Devourer ships began trying new tactics. Instead of trying to adapt to human weapons, they focused on avoiding them. They are getting smarter, reported Captain Daun. Recommend we change tactics. Agreed, replied General Sungmin. All units switch to Plan Delta, random attack patterns. Do not let them predict our movements. This was where human chaos became an advantage. While alien species fought with careful planning and logical tactics, humans could change their approach on instinct. They could make decisions that made no sense but somehow worked. Sergeant Jiho launched from his transport ship toward a damaged Devourer vessel. His mission was to board the enemy ship and plant explosive charges in its core systems. Remember, he told his Marines as they flew through space in their simple metal suits, these creatures expect logical tactics from advanced species. We are going to be as illogical as possible. Instead of attacking the ship's main entrance, Jiho's team used shaped charges to blow holes in the hull at random locations. Instead of moving toward the ship's bridge, they went directly to what looked like a waste disposal system. The Devourers inside the ship were completely confused. Their responses were designed for predictable enemy behavior. They had no idea how to react to humans who seemed to make no sense. Charges placed, Jiho reported as his team worked their way through the strange organic corridors of the bioship. 30 seconds to detonation. The explosion that followed destroyed the largest Devourer ship in the battle. As it died, something amazing happened. The other Devourer ships began to retreat. All units, enemy is withdrawing, announced General Sungmin. Pursue and maintain pressure but do not break formation. As the Devourers fled toward the edge of the system, the combined fleet followed them. For the first time since the invasion began, the ancient enemy was running away. This is Admiral Taiwan to all ships, came the voice over the communication system. Well done, everyone. Today we proved that the galaxy will not fall without a fight. Captain Dayan looked at her bridge crew and smiled. Set course for home, she ordered. I think we have earned some rest. But even as they celebrated their victory, everyone knew this was just the beginning. The Devourers would adapt to what they had learned. The next battle would be even harder. However, for the first time since the invasion began, the galaxy had hope. And that hope had a name, humanity.